Welcome to another one of my walking and chatting lectures this morning. And before I get started, I just want to take a moment to thank all of my supporters for supporting my channel. You know, this channel will not be where it's at today without all of my supporters. So with that being said, let's get on down to this morning's lecture, which is the thought-provoking question: Do you know how to move in silence on your job? Do you know how to move in silence on your job? And what I'm going to lecture about is, in reference to that question, is all of these tips and strategies I'm going to lecture about. I've used all of these tips and strategies throughout my career, all the way up until my retirement, September the 6th, 2023. And along that journey, I learned a lot from other individuals I personally know who mastered the skills of moving in silence on the job. You know, because first and foremost, many people have the mindset that old jobs don't care about you, and the minute you go on, they'll replace your position. If you die, they'll replace your position. But in reality, people, you're gonna have to shift your mindset. You're gonna have to shift your mindset and understand that business model. You know, think of yourself as a business partner on any job that you may have, whether it's a full-time job, part-time job, I don't care who you work for. It is a business, people, versus being personal. I'm just keeping it real. It's a business. That job, that company, that organization, that corporation, it's a business. And think of yourself when you go to work, I don't care how many jobs you have, as a business partner. You're exchanging your knowledge, skills, your talents, your time for a paycheck. It is a business. By evidence, you're getting that W-2 form at the end of the year, or you're getting that 1099 at the end of the year to validate. It is a business. It's not personal. They're not supposed to be your family. They're not supposed to give you therapy or counseling. It is a business. It is a business. Your family is your family. Your significant others, your children, your in-laws, your nieces and your nephews and your grandkids is your family, not the job. If you need therapy or counseling, go to therapy or counseling outside of that job. You know, take your time off. You know, rather it's your vacation time or your lunch break every day, or your 10 or 15 minute break when it's time to go off, and go home and rejuvenate yourself, because it is a business transaction. For real. And people really need to understand that. These jobs are not there to be your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your significant other, your pastor. There are other external things you can go to get all that, versus on the job, because it's a business. Think of yourself as a business partner. There we go. Make sure, by evidence it's a business, there's policies and procedures in place on that job. There's essential job functions that they hire you to do on that business job. For real. There's obligations and responsibilities and accountability you got to adhere to on that job, because it's a business. Being to work on time, performing the essential functions of your job as indicated on the job description, adhering to professional conduct on the job, and that conduct is congruent with policy and procedure. People, is a business. I understand that all throughout my working history. Even as a teenager, I understood that it's a business. That's why when they hire you, they interview you, they hire you, they go over that job description, orientation, policy, procedure, because it's a business. And people have gotten this thing twisted. They're disgruntled and they're upset, and the job don't care about me, and they're not supposed to care about you. It's a business, and they're hiring you to deliver. And all throughout my working career, and I tell folks, when you wrap your mind around that, and then you master the skill of moving in silence on that job, that's power right there. If you got something, if you are developing yourself, cultivating yourself to improve yourself outside of that job, keep your mouth shut. If you got a small business, a side business simultaneously while you working that job because it's a business, keep your mouth shut. Although I retired September 6th of 2023, I've always had my company, Patterson Associates Resource Center. I did many things under my company. I used to do clinical evaluation, DUI evaluations. Throughout my career under my company, made a truckload of money. Over the past few years, I phased out a lot of my clinical services under my company because I'm a licensed therapist. I hold credentials. And I made a lot of money when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, under my company or as an expert in my profession. But don't make no mistake. When I was making all that money under my company, simultaneously working in my profession, I wasn't going to work every day talking about all this truckload of money I'm making under my company, Patterson Associates Resource Center. I kept my mouth shut. I kept my mouth shut because when you are self-disclosing everything about what you got going on outside of that job, you know what? Everybody ain't happy with your stuff. The same folks who won't be maybe smiling and asking inquisitive questions about, how are you making all this money outside of the job? At the same time, internally, they can be jealous of you, and then they can begin to play mind games on that day job. They make it toxic for you. There we go. Because you're running your mouth. So you got to learn how to move in silence and navigate on these jobs. I've used those skills all throughout my working history, even when I was in the military, all the way up until I retired. And it's power, people. Because I understand that I was a business partner on those jobs. I understand it was a business transaction on these jobs. It ain't personal. It's not personal. My family, my significant other, kids, mother, father, sister, brother, that's in my faith in God was my family, not the job. You got to understand that. Take your time off. Take your vacation time off. Get out of there on time and go home and rejuvenate yourself from that business so you can return back to that business so you can perform the essential functions of your job in relation to that business relationship and maintain those boundaries and go home. And go home and rejuvenate yourself. When it's time to take your lunch break, take your lunch break. When it's time to take PTO time off from that business partner, take it because it's a business. And it's not personal. And keep your mouth shut. And I'm going to tell you one thing I did all throughout my working history. I retired from state government. I would work a couple of years in one department and go to another department within the system all the way up until I retired. I will always pay attention to the people I worked around who moved in silence, who was quiet as a mouse. I don't care what their position is. They could be housekeeping in the building. They could be maintenance in the building. They can be a co-worker in the building. They can be a supervisor, a manager, all the way up to the CEO in the building. But I paid attention to the ones who move in silence. And those are the ones I would seek out and get to know on a coffee break or a lunch break for real. And I would suck up their wisdom. I will never forget this. It was one particular woman that worked in the particular building I work in. Her job was a housekeeper. She had been there for probably over 30 years. Every time I saw this woman coming through that building to do her housekeeping in the area of that building, she's quiet as a mouse. Even heel. But make no mistake, people. People who got the skills to move in silence and you don't even know that they're there. It took skills to do that because make no mistake, If that woman had been working for state for over 30 years as a housekeeper, trust me, she went through some stuff. You know, because a lot of times people think they can talk to folks any kind of way just because you're a housekeeper. Be rude and disrespectful, cuss them out. She's interacting with people who are in the housekeeping department all the way up to chain of command as she go through that building to do her housekeeping duties. But she was quiet as a mouse, kept a smile on her face, never seen her raise her voice, because I seen other people housekeepers worked in the building that I was a supervisor in, and some of them would be loud and get mad at different folks they interact with, cursing them out loud and not half doing their job and bringing all that attention to. But every time she was in that building, she would do her job quiet as a mouse, and I went out of my way to start eating lunch with her every single day, to suck up her wisdom. How have you been able to do this? How have you been able to move in silence and get your job done and don't nobody even know you there, but we know you're there? And the main thing she told me, number one, first of all, she kept folks out of her business. And I remember her telling me, this job is a job. I get my rejuvenation outside of this job. This job is just a job. That's all. And people need to understand that and come to work and do their job instead of stirring up mess. And that's stuck inside of my head. And that really did. And when I got to know her for about a good year, then she eventually retired, and I stayed in touch with her after she had retired from the state of North Carolina. This woman had mastered those skills for over 30 plus years of working. And she even told me that if you get a side job, if you get a part-time job, keep your mouth shut. Don't be telling folks you got a little side job. She said she worked a side job years simultaneously working for the state government, but she kept her mouth shut. She kept her mouth. As long as that job don't interfere with your primary job schedule and etc., keep your mouth shut. A lot of folks go out there and get these second jobs and run in their mouth, and then everybody on their primary job looking at them differently. Then they'll begin to make the environment toxic because they're jealous. They're jealous that they got a second job and making extra money and getting things done. I just really, over the time I got to know her, I learned from that woman. This is somebody who worked in a toxic building, because I was a supervisor, clinical supervisor in the same building she was a housekeeper in, and there's many different departments working in that building. And I will listen to the loud ones and the toxic ones and the disgruntled ones. You can't help but hear them. And just like I heard it, she heard it, and she never opened her mouth because it wasn't her place to open her mouth. Move in silence, people, on these jobs. That is how you survive these jobs. That is how I survived my career job. That's how I survived being in the military, and I've worked in corporate America. Move in silence. Keep your mouth shut. Have the mindset you are a business partner. It is a business transaction. They are paying you to perform the essential functions of your job. By evidence, you get that W-2 or that 1099 at the end of the year. By evidence, there's policies and procedures in place. It's a business. Your family is your family. Cultivate and rejuvenate and nurture yourself outside of that job. Take care of yourself outside of the job. Take care of yourself when you are getting off every day and going home and you having that meantime. Take care of yourself by taking that coffee break. Take care of yourself by taking that PTO. Take care of yourself by embracing your spirituality and having your faith in God, so He can give you the skills to move in silence on these jobs, so you can go and elevate yourself. And if whatever you're working on to cultivate and develop yourself outside of that job, rather it's writing a book, or rather it's starting your own or little side business as a consultant, or whatever that side business may be, keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut on that day job, because you never know, it's gonna be somebody in the group listening and smiling and verbally wishing you well, but inside of them, internally, they're hating on you. They're jealous. Now they're going to be really jealous because they know you're cultivating yourself outside of the job because you're running your mouth. Then they're going to begin to play mind games. They're going to play mind games to create toxicity on the job to the point now you're getting written up because you don't ran your mouth. And that is the secret ingredient. People, I have used those tips and strategies my entire working history. I met so many people along the way who mastered the skill of being quiet as a mouse on jobs. That one particular housekeeper I told you about, she wasn't the only one I met throughout my journey who had mastered those skills, and I will always gravitate towards those individuals. I will always gravitate towards those type of people on the job, even the ones who are quiet in meetings. They say what they got to say when they're in the meeting, and other than that, they become invisible. It's power people. So you don't need to always say something. It's power in silence. Listen, keep your mouth shut and your ears open. That's how you survive on these jobs. And the most important thing, understand it is a business transaction. These jobs ain't supposed to care about you. They're not family. Your family is your family. Don't get this twisted. If just like when you go home, when you get off work, you should be not bringing that job home to your family. For your family now, you're dumping that negative energy on your child or your significant other or anyone in your household. You're bringing that negative energy from that job into your household versus, being there for your family, enjoying your family in the evening time, enjoying that meal, helping your kids with your homework. Family's family, people. That job ain't your family. No, it's not. That job is business. That family is personal. That job is business. And the minute people begin to shift their mindset to understand that will play a positive impact on giving you the skills to move in silence. And it is a skill set. The last 14 or 15 years of my working history, I have mastered those skills. I've always used those skills throughout all of my working history, but about the past 15 years of my working history, I became the master in being quiet as a mouse on the job all the way until I exit out and retired. When I retired September the 6th, 2023, nobody, people who have been working shoulder to shoulder with me for over 15 years, nobody knew that I was retiring until my last hour of work, and I exit up out of the workforce forever. That's power, people, because it wasn't their business. The only person who knew I was retiring was HR representative, because I had to put in for my retirement packet, and I told her, do not send an email out letting folks know about my upcoming retirement, because that was one of the things that they would do, send an email out to let folks know who are getting ready for the upcoming retirement so the job can do some kind of retirement party. I told, don't you send an email out on me. My retirement is my business. That's my business, and it's also my personal business, and do not self-disclose my personal business in relation to I'm getting ready to retire. I don't want all that. And then she honored my wish. And I retired September the 6th, 2023, and nobody knew. It was one person actually knew at the end, because they saw my office was completely empty. It was nothing in it. Nothing. You would walk in an empty office, completely. All of the files had been removed and boxed up and taken to administration, file cabinets taken out. Everything was out of that office. And one of my co-workers who was on the management team with me saw that empty damn office. She knew how I operated silent. She said, are you leaving? Literally my last day on the job, 1 hour, she saw that empty office. She said, yeah, today is my last day. I'm retired. What? And that was it. That was it, people. And that's a good example of moving in silence. And the rest is history. All throughout my working history, never been written up for anything because I mastered those skills. All throughout my working history, I kept folks out of my business. They didn't know whether I was married or not married. Do you have kids or do you not have kids? My favorite food, where I go on vacation, what church I went to. They knew none of that because that was personal. I'm here. They didn't know my birthday, none of that. That was personal. They didn't even know where I was from, because that was personal. They didn't, nothing. They did nothing. If I took time off, all they knew was I'm taking time off. I could have been out of the country, taking a trip out of the country. They ain't knowing. All y'all need to know is I'm out the office. And I kept it that way. This real talk, people. They ain't have nothing on me. Nothing. They didn't even, nothing. And that's power. Power in silence. A power in silence. I spoke, I was cordial to people, but I never ate lunch with nobody. Nobody. Not on my immediate team. Nobody. Because I sought out the people who were quiet as a mouse. Those are the ones I would seek out and eat lunch with. Other than that, I ain't fool with none of them throughout my working. None of them. I spoke and I was cordial because I knew the agenda. I'm there to do a job. I'm there to perform the essential functions of my job, to adhere to policies, procedure, and do what I'm supposed to do in relation to this business transaction. And I'm telling you, it worked for me. It helped me get meritorious promotions in the military. It helped me get promotions throughout my job, bonuses throughout my job, all the way up until I retired. Never written up. It's power because I mastered those skills. And I learned from other people who I sought out, who mastered those skills on these jobs. I didn't care what their position was. Because anybody in any position who can survive a job for 30 years and they so quiet and you don't even know they're in the building, those are the type of people you need to gravitate towards. And you need to learn their secret. I'm here to tell you. Because right now, you got folks of all ages. In the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, even older, bring so much attention to themselves on these jobs, getting fired on jobs, disgruntled, etc., 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 because they bring too much attention to themselves. They have not mastered none of these skills. And until they can begin to start mastering some of these skills, they're going to always have problems on jobs, no matter where they go. Because they have not embraced that mindset. It's a business transaction. It's a business model you need to understand. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have on this topic. Don't forget to mark your calendar for September the 29th. I'm going to do another relational lecture on the winning format I use to write my manuscript to my book title, Await Financial Freedom. That was accepted by 2 world-renowned publishing companies. I'm going to present that format September the 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be ready to get down to business. So if you want to find out what that format that I use, tune in, because I'm going to be ready to get down to business. That's all I have. Simple fidelity, and I'm leaving in the care of your own conscience. Have a great day.